Hey guys, it's Mrs. Brewer, and today we are going to start reading one of my favorite chapters in this whole book. It is wild and crazy, and you're never going to believe what happens. So let's jump right in and let's get started reading The Lightning Thief, Chapter 13, I Plunge to My Death. All right. We spent 2 days on the Amtrak train, heading west through hills, over rivers, past amber waves of grain. We weren't attacked once, but I didn't relax. I felt that we were traveling around in a display case, being watched from above and maybe below, that something was waiting for the right opportunity. I tried to keep a low profile because my name and pictures were splattered over the front pages of several East Coast newspapers. The Trenton Register News showed a photo taken by a tourist as I got off the Greyhound bus. I had a wild look in my eyes. The sword was a metallic blur in my hands. It might have been a baseball bat or a lacrosse stick. The picture's caption read, 12-year-old Percy Jackson, wanted for questioning in the Long Island disappearance of his mother 2 weeks ago, is shown here, fleeing from the bus where he accosted several elderly female passengers. The bus exploded on an East New Jersey roadside shortly after Jackson fled the scene. Based on eyewitness accounts, police believe the boy may be traveling with 2 teenage accomplices. His stepfather, Gabe Ugliano, has offered a cash reward for information leading to his capture. Don't worry, Annabeth told me. Mortal police could never find us. But she didn't sound so sure. The rest of the day, I spent alternately pacing the length of the train, because I had a really hard time sitting still, or looking out the windows. Once, I spotted a family of centaurs galloping across a wheat field, bows at the ready, as they hunted lunch. The little boy centaur, who was the size of a second grader, on a pony, caught my eye and waved. I looked around the passenger car, but nobody else had noticed. The adult riders had their faces buried in laptop computers or magazines. Another time, toward evening, I saw something huge moving through the woods. I could have sworn it was a lion. Except, lions don't live wild in America. And this thing, it was the size of a Hummer. Its fur glinted gold in the evening light. Then, it leaped through the trees and it was gone. Our reward money for returning Gladiola the poodle had only been enough to purchase tickets as far as Denver. We couldn't get berths in the sleeper car, so we dozed in our seats. My neck got stiff. I tried really hard to not drool in my sleep, since Annabeth was sitting right next to me. Grover kept snoring and bleeding and waking me up. Once he shuffled around and his fake foot fell off. Annabeth and I had to stick it back on before any of the other passengers noticed anything. So, Annabeth asked me once we'd gotten Grover's sneaker readjusted, who wants your help? What do you mean? When you were asleep now, you mumbled, I won't help you. What were you dreaming about? I was reluctant to say anything. It was the second time I dreamed about the evil voice from the pit. But it bothered me so much, I finally told her. Annabeth was quiet for a long time. That doesn't sound like Hades. He always appears on a black throne, and he never laughs. He offered my mother in trade. Who else could do that? I guess if he meant help me rise from the underworld, if he wants war with the Olympians, but why would he ask you to bring him the Master Bolt if he already has it? I shook my head, wishing I knew the answer. I thought about what Grover had told me, that the Furies on the bus seemed to be looking for something. Where is it? Where? Maybe Grover sensed my emotions. He snorted in his sleep, muttered something about vegetables, and he turned his head. Annabeth readjusted his cap so it covered his horns. Percy, you can't barter with Hades. You know that, right? He's deceitful, heartless, and greedy. I don't care if the kindly ones weren't that aggressive this time. This time? You mean you've run into him before? Her hand crept up to her necklace. She fingered a white bead that painted with the image of a pine tree. One of her clay into summer tokens. Let's just say I've got no love for the Lord of the Dead. You can't be tempted to make a deal for your mom. What would you do if he had your dad? That's easy. I'd leave him to rot. You're not serious. Annabeth's gray eyes fixed on me. She wore the same expression she'd worn in the woods at camp, the moment she drew her sword against the hound. My dad's resented me since the day I was born, Percy. She said, he never wanted a baby. When he got me, he asked Athena to take me back and raise me on Olympus because he was too busy with his work. She wasn't happy about that. She told him heroes had to be raised by their mortal parents. But how? I mean, I guess you weren't born in a hospital. I appeared on my father's doorstep in a golden cradle carried down from Olympus by Zephyr the west wind. You'd think my dad would remember that as a miracle, right? Like, maybe he'd take some photos or something? But he always talked about my arrival as if it were the most inconvenient thing that ever happened to him. When I was 5, he got married and totally forgot about Athena. He got a regular mortal wife and had 2 regular mortal kids and tried to pretend that I didn't exist. I stared out the train window. The lights of a sleeping town were drifting by. I wanted to make Annabeth feel better, but I didn't know how. My mom married a really awful guy, I told her. Grover said she did it to protect me, to hide me in the scent of a human family. Maybe that's what your dad was thinking. Annabeth kept worrying at her necklace. She was pinching the gold college ring that hung with the beads. It occurred to me that the ring must be her father's. I wondered why she wore it if she hated him so much. He doesn't care about me, she said. His wife, my stepmom, treated me like a freak. She wouldn't let me play with her children. My dad went along with her. Whenever something dangerous happened, something with monsters, they would both look at me resentfully, like, how dare you put our family at risk? Finally, I took the hint. I wasn't wanted, so I ran away. How old were you? Same age as I was when I started camp, 7. But you couldn't have got all the way to Half-Blood Hill by yourself. Not alone, no. Athena watched over me, guided me to help. I made a couple unexpected friends who took care of me. Well, for a short time anyways. I wanted to ask what happened, but Annabeth seemed lost in sad memories. So I listened to the sound of Grover snoring and gazed out the train windows as the dark fields of Ohio raced by. Toward the end of our second day on the train, June 13th, 8 days before the summer solstice, we passed through some golden hills over the Mississippi River into St. Louis. Annabeth craned her neck to see the gateway arch, which to me looked like a huge shopping bag handle stuck on the city. I want to do that, she sighed. What? I said. Build something like that. You ever see the Parthenon, Percy? Only in pictures. Someday, I'm going to see it in person. I'm going to build the greatest monument to the gods ever. Something that'll last 1,000 years. You? An architect? I didn't know why, but I found it funny. Just the idea of Annabeth trying to sit quietly and draw all day. Her cheeks flushed. Yes, me, an architect. Athena expects her children to create things, not just tear them down, like a certain god of earthquakes that I could mention. I watched the churning brown waters of the Mississippi River below. Sorry, Annabeth said, that was mean. Can't we work together even a little bit? I pleaded. I mean, didn't Athena and Poseidon ever cooperate? Annabeth had to think about it. I guess. The chariot, she said tentatively. My mom invented it, but Poseidon created horses out of the waves. So they had to work together to make it complete. Then we can cooperate too, right? We rode into the city, Annabeth watching as the arch disappeared behind a hotel. I suppose, she said at last. We pulled into the Amtrak station downtown. The intercom told us we have a 3-hour layover before departing for Denver. Grover stretched. Before he was even fully awake, he said, "Food!" "Come on, goat boy," Annabeth said. "Sightseeing." "Sightseeing?" "The Gateway Arch," she said. "This may be my only chance to ride it to the top. Are you coming or not?" Grover and I exchanged looks. I wanted to say no, but I figured that if Annabeth was going, we couldn't very well let her go alone. Grover shrugged. "As long as there's a snack bar without monsters." The Arch was about a mile from the train station. Late in the day, the lines to get in weren't that long. We threaded our way through the underground museum, looking at a covered wagon and other junk from the 1800s. It wasn't all that thrilling, but Annabeth kept telling us interesting facts about how the arch was built, and Grover kept passing me jelly beans, so I was okay. I kept looking around, though, at the other people in line. "Smell anything?" I murmured to Grover. He took his nose out of the jelly bean bag long enough to sniff. "Underground," he said distastefully. "Underground air always smells like monsters. Probably doesn't mean anything." But something felt wrong to me. I had a feeling we shouldn't be here. "Guys," I said, "you know the god symbols of power?" Annabeth had been in the middle of reading about the construction equipment used to build the arch, but she looked over. "Yeah?" "Well, Hades..." Grover cleared his throat. "We're in a public place. You mean our friend downstairs?" Right," I said. "Our friend way downstairs. Doesn't he have a hat like Annabeth's?" "You mean the Helm of Darkness," Annabeth said. "Yeah, that's a symbol of power. I saw it next to his seat during the Winter Solstice Council meeting." "He was there?" I asked. She nodded. "It's the only time he's allowed to visit Olympus, the darkest day of the year. But his helm is a lot more powerful than my invisibility hat, if what I've heard is true." "It allows him to become darkness," Grover confirmed. "He can melt into shadows or pass through walls. He can't be touched or seen or heard. And he can radiate fear so intense it can drive you insane or stop your heart. Why do you think all rational creatures fear the dark?" But then, how do we know he's not here right now, watching us? I asked. Annabeth and Grover exchanged looks. "We don't," Grover said. "Thanks. That makes me feel a lot better," I said. "You got any blue jelly beans left?" All right, we're going to leave off there, and tomorrow it's going to get crazy when they get up in the arch. Can't wait to read that with you. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye, guys.